Hi, my name is Jimmy Nelson, and for the last 48 years of my life I've been traveling around the world, and probably about 31 years of those 48 I've been taking pictures of glorious places and ultimately glorious people. And it's these people that I've met, these extraordinary tribes that I've tried to make into icons. It's the lessons that they've taught me that I want to share with you today. The first lesson I'd like to share with you is one of humor. Okay, central Mongolia, depths of winter, minus 40 degrees centigrade. One night when I'd realized I'd failed in all possible manners, I got very, very drunk on local vodka. I woke up and it was disaster. I'd peed on my pants and I'd peed all over the tent. Nobody knew at the time, but they did within seconds because all the reindeer stampeded and trampled over the tent. All hell broke loose. Nobody had told me that reindeer love urine, and that's what they use to attract them. So unbeknown to me, I covered the tent in the urine. All hell broke loose. They started shouting at me, screaming at me. Subsequently, they actually started laughing at me, and it was through this laughter, this magic of this sort of natural form of human communication. The next morning, we made contact. We made some of the most beautiful contact that I've ever made before, but you cannot believe how that contact was made by having spent the most disastrous night of my life. The next lesson is knowledge, excruciatingly important for every picture you're going to make. I was in southern Ethiopia with a Dusanek, hoping to get 50 villagers sitting, hanging, standing in a tree, and it failed. Seconds before I was about to make the picture, they all ran away fighting and screaming. Turned out that two of the girls had been going out with the same boy, and I hadn't asked them, and I'd sat them next to each other. So the next day I spent all day asking everybody in the village who is what is your name, who's gone out with who, before I could remake that picture, get all 50 of them sitting back in the tree again to put in that one last sheet of film before the sunset. So knowledge is paramount. Okay, the next lesson is vulnerability. Northwestern Mongolia, with the Kazakhs, standing on top of a mountain. Again, I've failed. My hands end up sticking to the camera in the cold because I've taken my gloves off. I remove them, they're bleeding. I have a breakdown, a literal breakdown. I'm sobbing on the floor. And two of these women came up and they put my hands on their chests and they hugged me. Incredible sensation. But it was only after that, a few minutes later, that I realized what had happened. True contact had been made because these Kazakhs and these women are Muslim, and they decided to park all form of judgment, all form of beoordeling, to help me in my moment of vulnerability. And perhaps that was the contact I was looking for. The next lesson is pride. So we're now in Papua New Guinea, in the highlands. We're with the Huli wig men, extraordinary men with yellow faces and these wigs, these unique wigs made out of their hair and birds of paradise feathers. I spent weeks portraiting them, sitting on my knees, hero worshipping them, telling them, you're amazing, you're icons, making them feel proud. They ultimately followed me for days into the jungle. We found the waterfall where I wanted to photograph these big sort of iconic group portraits, and they stood there waiting for the better part of 2 days to get the light right. They don't understand how to make a picture, they don't understand about the light, but they did understand it was about pride. That is what I'd communicated to them by sitting on my knees for weeks hero worshipping. Now, the next lesson is judgment. Judgment about the Samburu warriors. It's a picture, 3 spectacular men from behind, but they look female. I showed it to my youngest daughter and she said, yeah, but they're ladies, and why are they carrying spears? And I said, no, they're men. They're not only men, they're some of the most physically spectacular men on the planet, because they can kill a lion with their bare hands. She sort of looked at me and said, how can they do that when they're so busy with their aesthetic? I said, because they are so imbalanced, they're so in tune to their tradition, their culture, and their capabilities. So when you look at people, whether it's the Samburu warriors, you look at me, or look at one another, look beyond, do not judge, because often the truth is far different from what the eye beholds. The next lesson is one of respect. We're in northern Namibia on the border of Angola with the Himba, beautiful tribe living in the desert in the Hartmann mountain range. I was returning, I've been there a number of times before, with the book, showing and sharing the pictures. And I remember while sitting there, looking and seeing that the fence had gone around their village and asking why. And they said, well, the chief has just died. I said, yeah, what on earth does that have to do with this major structure that you've removed? And they said, well, we always do that when somebody important has died. We destroy something that they've made. And in that destruction, we come together as a community, we reflect on who they were, and then we rebuilt it even bigger and better than it was before, out of respect to their name and their honor. So this is very much one of many lessons that these tribes can teach us about our elders in this particular case. And the last lesson is probably the most profound lesson. Who are you as opposed to who am I? It's one of reflection. It's a picture I'm going to share with you and show you of the Nenit, and this glorious, far more handsome guy than I will ever be. But if you look in his eyes, there's a reflection of me. And a number of people have said, well, Jimmy, this could be a selfie. A little bit slow. Well, what do you mean it's a selfie? And so, well, there you are in his eyes. This is very much who you've become. You've etched yourself into their soul. And on reflection, it probably is. It's who I am, it's what I feel, and it's what I communicate in the pictures that I'm trying to make. So before you go out and make a picture, reflect on who you are and what you're trying to communicate in the first place, before you bother about the picture that's being made.